It started like most of my mornings do. Coffee, boots, and the quiet hum of sunrise over my fields. That quiet ended the moment I heard tires crunching over my gravel. Driveway, again, there it was. A brand new white SUV, ripping through the edge of my farmland like it was her personal shortcut. Dust flying, my crops bruised. And behind the wheel? You guessed it. Karen. Or in this case, the Karen sisters. It had been going on for weeks. These two entitled women decided that the dirt path between their overpriced suburban development and the highway was too slow, so they cut across my property like they owned it. I tried signs. I tried polite conversations. I even installed a chain-link gate once. They snipped it and laughed. One of them actually winked at me while driving past like she was in a Hallmark movie. That morning, I knew something had to change. I stood there, boots in dust, fists clenched, and I knew they were about to learn a hard lesson. You see, the thing about farmland? It's patient. It grows slowly, quietly. But when you sow the right seeds, well, you reap exactly what you deserve. And I had just started planting my revenge. My farm sits right at the edge of a once rural county that's slowly being chewed up by suburban sprawl, the kind where strip malls bloom faster than wildflowers and folks start putting HOA bylaws above basic decency. About 6 months ago, a cookie-cutter neighborhood popped up just across the east field. New homes with fake shutters and perfect lawns that had never seen dirt under their nails. And in the middle of it all, the Karen sisters. Real names? Madison and Courtney. But their behavior earned the title long before I ever learned what they were called. The first incident seemed innocent enough. One morning, I noticed tire tracks slicing across the southeast. Pasture, tracks that didn't belong there. I chalked it up to kids joyriding or someone getting lost. But the next day, same thing. And the day after that, I caught a glimpse of that SUV speeding past the barn, taking the shortcut from the neighborhood to the highway. No wave, no apology, just a blur of entitlement. So, I walked over one afternoon with a pitcher of lemonade and a firm but friendly warning. "Hey," I said, "that path's not public. It's tearing up my land. Mind sticking to the road?" Madison, the older one, barely looked up from her phone. "It's just dirt," she shrugged. "Relax," Courtney added. "We're not hurting anything. It's quicker this way. You should be flattered we trust your little dirt road." Flattered? Like my farm was some sort of rustic attraction? I tried not to let the anger boil. "This isn't a road," I replied calmly. "It's my private property. Please respect that." They nodded, but you know that nod. The one where they're already planning to ignore you. The next morning, the tracks were deeper. That weekend, they weren't alone. A couple more SUVs followed, kicking up dust like they were tailgating at a football game. Apparently, they'd told some friends. And then came the HOA letter. Not to them. To me. Yes, me. It accused me of creating an unsafe and unwelcoming barrier between communities. Apparently, someone had reported that my gate was hostile and inconvenient for traffic flow. I laughed out loud reading it, until I realized the HOA president was one of the Karen's husbands. That was just the beginning. After the HOA letter, things spiraled faster than I expected. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, the absurdity of them filing a complaint against me would burn itself out, but no. These two were committed to their path, literally and figuratively. About a week later, I woke up to find a fresh set of deep tire ruts across the north side. Not just one vehicle now, at least 4. They'd gone around the boulders I placed as a deterrent, dug around them. Someone had moved fence posts, bent them like twigs. I put up trail cams. They stole 2 and spray-painted over a 3rd. When I confronted them, again at their doorstep, Courtney giggled and said, "You should thank us. We're basically making a road for you." Madison added, "This land's gonna be bought out anyway. Might as well be useful in the meantime." That line stuck with me. Bought out. So that was the game. They thought they could bully me off my land. They figured if they made it inconvenient enough to stay, I'd sell. Just another farmer swallowed by suburbia. Nope. That week I got my first ticket. A county inspector, one I'd never seen before, citing me for obstructing a thoroughfare. Turns out the Karens had complained again, this time saying I'd blocked public access with my new gates and posted signs. I showed the officer my land deed. He shrugged. Not my call. A few days later, someone dumped trash, bags of it, right at the edge of my crop rows. Fast food wrappers, diapers, even a broken lawn chair. When I checked my remaining trail cam footage, guess who I saw? Madison's SUV, tailgate open, kids tossing garbage like it was a game. I emailed the footage to the HOA. Their response? A warning to me about defamation and unauthorized surveillance. It was getting ridiculous. My farm was being treated like a service road, a dumping ground, and now, a joke. The final straw came on a Saturday morning when I caught Courtney holding a clipboard at the edge of my property. She was giving tours. I kid you not. A group of well-dressed couples stood near the south pasture while she pointed across my crops and said things like, "This whole parcel's gonna be part of the expansion. You'll have back gate access and probably a nice dog park over there." That's when I knew. They weren't just being entitled. They were actively trying to devalue my land, to make it a problem for me so I'd be forced to give it up cheap. I had small wins here and there. One of the Karen's tires blew out when she hit a buried stump I hadn't moved yet. Another time, I caught Madison's husband trying to trim back one of my hedges, aka widen their little shortcut. And I politely reminded him it was a felony to alter another person's land. But those were just sparks. I needed a firestorm. So I went quiet, stopped confronting them, didn't send any more letters, didn't answer the HOA's emails, let them think I'd given up. Meanwhile, I started planning. And the soil? Well, it remembers. Every rut, every trespass, every boot print. And it was about to be part of my revenge. My revenge began with a simple blueprint, some fencing supplies, and a little help from my cousin Todd, who just so happens to run a local excavation company. I marked the paths they liked to use with fluorescent chalk late one evening. I mapped every tire trail, every corner they shaved, and every place they cut into my land. Then I made some calls. First, I had Todd dig a shallow trench, nothing dangerous, just deep enough to discourage tires. I filled it with soft mulch and disguised it to look like solid ground. Next, I installed motion-activated sprinklers along the route. Not just ordinary sprinklers, ones designed for deer deterrence, the kind that blast water like fire hoses when triggered. And I rigged them with a little extra surprise. I added natural dye to the water, harmless, but it stained car paint a nice blotchy mud brown. The pièce de résistance, though? I repurposed an old irrigation system, connected a few hoses under a thin soil layer, and rerouted them to spray directly upward, creating slick spots that would spin tires if hit at high speed. Then I put up new signage, big ones, legally compliant ones, with laminated notices stating private agricultural land no access, video surveillance active. Violators will be prosecuted. But the real trick, I got the county involved, for real this time. Turns out, if you present consistent evidence of land, damage and safety hazards from recurring trespassers, the county will grant you special use permits. One of those, installation of tire puncture strips at private access points, and I installed them with pleasure. I even made a little gravel pull-off with a bright red sign, "Use this shortcut if you hate your tires." Then I waited. That Monday morning the Karens came barreling through like usual, except Madison hit the mulch trap first. Her front wheels sank like pudding, and her SUV bottomed out. I watched from the barn with binoculars as she revved, wheels flinging dyed mulch in every direction. Cue the sprinklers. Sploosh. Water and dye sprayed across her hood windows, and side mirrors like she'd driven through a paintball war zone. Courtney, right behind her, tried to swerve around the scene and hit the irrigation slick. Her car fishtailed, spun out, and bumped softly into my very legally placed rock barrier. By the time they got out, screaming, covered in dirt and stained water, I had the whole thing on 4 angles of footage, including drone shots. And I hadn't even dropped the real bomb yet, because I'd compiled every instance, every video, every HOA letter, and every damage report into a single USB drive, and sent it to the county sheriff, the zoning board, and a couple of friendly local reporters. Turns out, the HOA president, Madison's husband, wasn't just turning a blind eye. He'd tried to push a rezoning deal through, without disclosing his wife's involvement. Guess who came knocking that Friday? The sheriff, with a cease and desist, and a hefty fine. The shortcut days were over. Justice didn't come in one loud bang. It came in slow, glorious poetic layers. First, the Karen's SUVs had to be towed, in front of their whole neighborhood. Madison ranted and raved to the tow guy, who, bless his heart, just said, "Ma'am, I tow, not negotiate." Next came the HOA meeting. I wasn't going to attend, but then I heard the local reporter planned to show up. So I brought my footage, all of it, set up a little display, like a science fair project called Why You Don't Mess with a Farmer. Screenshots of trespassing, clips of the trash dumping, the DIY real estate tours, every single act of suburban entitlement, projected for all their neighbors to see. It was quiet, just awkward gasps, stifled laughter, and a slow realization that the Karens weren't victims. They were vandals. The HOA president tried to pivot. "Clearly there's been misunderstanding." "Sure," I interrupted. "The misunderstanding is you thought no one would notice." 2 weeks later, he resigned. The neighborhood backed off the rezoning push. And best of all, Madison's SUV insurance refused to cover the dye. Damage, classified it as vandalism by negligence. She had to pay for a whole repaint. And she no longer drives through anyone's property. Neither does Courtney. They've gone quiet, Just the way I like it. The farm's been peaceful lately. No tire tracks, no trash, no fake real estate tours. Just the hum of bees, the rustle of crops, and the knowledge that boundaries mean something, especially when you're willing to defend them. People think living off the land makes you soft. That being quiet means you're weak. But out here, we know better. We plant with intention. We harvest with purpose. And when someone threatens what's ours, we don't yell. We act. I didn't need to scream at the Karens. I let the land do the talking. With mulch, water, a little dye, and a lot of patience. Lesson of the day? Don't mistake rural for passive. Don't assume someone won't fight back just because they're polite. And above all, never drive through someone's farm unless you want to be part of the harvest. So tell me, what would you have done? Would you have gone full petty or played it cool and legal like I did? Drop your answer in the comments below. And if you made it this far, comment "Justice served," so I know my fellow land defenders are out there. And hey, next time someone calls you just a farmer, smile, because farmers don't just grow food, we grow consequences.